Hey there. Hello, how do you do? My name is Harry Wetzel. Thanks for coming. It's the 80s, darling. Yes, 1985, Wednesday night. It's around 11:30. Warm night in the latter part of the year. I'm at a bar on the Upper West Side. It's a place that CT and Cookie Crazy Janie and I like to frequent, and it's another one of those emporiums that we never actually learn the name to. We always called this place that place with the neon clock. So, I'm at that place with the neon clock on the Upper West Side. I'm alone, but I'm in a jaunty mood. I'm thinking that maybe later on I might even get the nerve up to hit the dance floor. Right. So I need to have some drinks before I do that, and I need the right music to be able to grab me and lead me out there and take that moment from not dancing into dancing. Yes. And so I'm just waiting for that. I have a couple of drinks. And Brother Louie by Stories comes on. Ah, dangerous, urgent sounding sort of song. Yes, it is. Suitable for dancing? Absolutely. So I jump on out there and I'm doing the shift. And I'm doing a little bit of Ohio hop and things like that. I'm dancing around, and there's a couple over there on the dance floor, and there's another couple over there on the dance floor. There are no single women on the dance floor, just me. And I want to dance with somebody. So I look over, there's a nearby table, and there's some newspapers on it. So I pick up the front page of the New York Times, and I start dancing with that. I'm doing the shift. And I'm dancing around there. Louie, 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 Louie. And I'm dancing around there. And what should happen? But lo and behold, in the middle of the song, a beautiful young woman comes up and puts her hand on my newspaper and pushes it down. And she gives me this great big smile. She's got these luscious lips and a space between her front teeth. Oh, the diastema, the good luck teeth in French, dent de bonheur. Yes, I've always found it terribly, terribly alluring. Right. So I get rid of that newspaper to the music, of course, and I turn around and I put my arm around her waist and I start waltzing with her. And as I put my arm around her, I feel her back is solid as steel. And I got my arm on so are her arms made of steel. And I'm going, this is amazing. So we're dancing around and she's smiling. We're having a great time. And the song eventually ends. She says, I'm Mirella. And I'm like, oh, Mirella, what a beautiful word. I introduce myself, and the next song starts right up. It's Boogie Oogie Oogie by Taste of Honey. So we jump right into that, and we're dancing to the Boogie Oogie Oogie. We're boogieing around. I'm taking it easy and stuff. I'm doing the Ohio hop. I don't want to get too crazy on our first couple dances together, right? So at one point in the song, I say, hey, I'm listening to the music, and I say, this is the exact same song that we were just listening to. And she says, what are you talking about? I say, Louie, Louie, Louie versus Boogie Oogie Oogie. And she sort of laughed at that. Excuse me. She sort of laughed at that. And I wanted to kiss her. Yes. Well, that song ends, and the next one comes up. And it's Love Will Keep Us Together. So we both decided it was time to go over and get a drink and a smoke. Yes. So we leave the dance floor and we go over to the bar, get a drink there. And Mirella is a Wall Street trader, as it turns out. Yeah, she's a freelance Wall Street trader. She works on a computer. She works on this thing that she's talking about. It's new in the 80s, called the internet. And I'm not exactly sure what the hell she's talking about, but it sounds like it's a place that you go to. And she says, yes, sort of it is. Anyhow, that was fascinating. And not only that, but Mirella was also, as it turns out, a bodybuilder and a swimmer. Yes, that's why she was made of steel. Yes. Fantastic. She was saying, oh, I do laps in the pool every day, and I've got 2% body fat. 2%. body fat. I was dying. I wanted to see that for myself. Well, we're sitting there waiting around for another song to come up before we can hit the dance floor. And what should happen but Blinded by the Light by Manfred Mann and the Mother Earth Band come on. And that's a lot of fun. So I grab her hand and we rush on out to the dance floor and we are dancing it up. I'm doing the broken puppet full on, and she and I are just dancing together. That's a long song, by the way. So we're dancing to that. And if you do the broken puppet for a 7-minute song, you will start to get exhausted. I know. Anyhow, the next song came up. Another long song, the Hotel California. This was at that point in history, though, when Hotel California had become sort of a joke because it had received so much airplay that everyone was sick of it. And at this point in the 80s, we decided it was time to leave. And so next thing I know, we're walking home together to her place. Yes. So we are standing in the lobby of her apartment building, making out. And we're just making out there in the lobby of her apartment building. And between smooches, she says, I live on the second floor. So I just put my arm around her and picked her up. And as we were osculating, as we were smooching, I walked up the stairs carrying Mirella. We get up there and she says, my apartment's over here. I carry her over there and I put her down. She gives me one last nice, lovely smooch. And she takes out her keys. She unlocks the door and she opens the door and steps across the threshold. And she turns to me and she says, this is where we say goodnight. And I said, yes, of course it is. I said, unless you are inspired to do otherwise, in which case I would not wish to crush that inspiration. And she laughed at that a little bit. Yes. I said, when can I see you? And she said, this week. I said, fine, I need your number. So I took out my book. She gave me her number. I wrote it down. I put my book back. I said, I'll be calling you tomorrow if that's okay. She says, yes, that is okay. And she said, but, you know what? She said. I said, what? She gives me this big smile. She says, come here. And so I moved to her like I was in a trance. And she puts her hands on my shoulders. And she pulls me in. She gives me one exquisite kiss. And then she pushes me back gently. And she grabs the door and she says, good night. And she shuts the door. And I say, good night. And the door went click. I walk down those stairs kind of on a cloud. This is fantastic. I get outside into the New York night. And I'm like, look, and I look up Broadway. I go, I'm just a 6 or 7 minute walk away. I've never had a girlfriend live this close. I know. She's not actually my girlfriend yet, but she's so amazing. I'd like to see what I can do about that. All right. Now that the Double Image Repertory Company shows are closed and we've struck the set and put everything away in storage and all that debacle that I didn't even bother telling you about because it was just exhausting and miserable. But we eventually got all the set pieces put into a storage facility up there at 120th Street or something like that. And that means I'm out of a job. It means I got to go job hunting again in Manhattan. Oh, great. Isn't that great? Nothing worse than job hunting in job or house hunting in Manhattan. But, however, I took the invaluable advice of brilliant Harold over at the Winter Garden, who told me, he said, go on unemployment. Go on it as soon as you can. So I did. I got the paperwork. I made the phone calls. I did all the work that I was supposed to do. And poof, it came true. They assigned me to an unemployment office up at 161st Street, the Cathedral Station. And I took the number 1 red line up there practically straight from my apartment, right on up to 161, walked over to the unemployment office, stood in line C, and after you get up to the window, they give you an envelope with a check in it. Yes. All right. So then I would immediately go to the nearest check cashing emporium. Yes, and turn in my 5% of the check. And then they would give me back cash. I'd have cash in my pocket and ready to walk home. Now, it's a 60-block walk back to my apartment down Broadway. Now, I used to walk Broadway 100 blocks from the Lower East Side all the way up to 98th Street. In the middle of the night, I've done it many a time. Well, it's always so different to walk Broadway in the daytime from uptown to uptown rather than from downtown to uptown. It's a completely different experience. It's so New York. It's so alive. It's so fantastic. You cut through Harlem there. It's so amazing. It's so beautiful, and it's so wonderful. It is. Ever since that night that Gregory and Michael and Buck took me up to Harlem and taught me and said, we're going to teach you about life. Ever since that night where I learned the history of Harlem, I've always felt very comfortable in Harlem. At least in broad daylight, I did. Yes. All right. So now that is the Tuesday agenda. Every other Tuesday, I go up to line C. And now, what is this going to be for? How am I going to utilize this? How can I make myself a better person using unemployment? I say, all right, then I've got to find a job in this mecca of unemployed actors, in the capital of unemployed actors, New York City, the big bad apple. It's about auditioning. Right. So I said, all right, that's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to approach this, that these checks that I get are actually my paychecks for auditioning. That was the plan. So I started to buy Backstage again, the weekly actors newspaper that had all the audition notices that you could ever want, right? And I started to dust off some good old monologues that I had. I had one from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which had been a success for me back in Michigan. I had a monologue from The Elephant Man, another theatrical success for me back in college. Yes. I learned a monologue from The Petrified Forest, which I had never been involved in, but it was a really good monologue and a really good play. And I used a monologue that was actually an opera aria from Die Walküre, The Walkyrie, right, by Richard Wagner. And it was Wotan's Farewell, a lovely monologue where a father bids farewell to his daughter. Yes. These were some pretty good monologues, and I had them in order, and I was ready and willing and able to take them and audition legitimately anywhere at any audition with these. I felt good, and I felt that was my focus, and that's what we're going to do. Right. Okay. Meanwhile, back in my relationship with Mirella, she's an answering machine or a phone date. Sometimes she's not there and she's just an answering machine. Sometimes we get to chat on the phone. But the thing is, we have not seen each other since our initial meeting / date / makeout session. I haven't seen her. So I just talk to her on the phone when I can and leave a message when I can and hope for the best. All right. So what happens next? But Lily and Suzanne have a party down at Lily's apartment there on West 68th Street. Yes, Suzanne and Lily lived in the same apartment building. Remember, Suzanne had a lovely apartment where I drew that poster, and she had Avril Haines, a future Obama cabinet member, when she was just a teenage girl, lived upstairs from Suzanne, and she came down and visited me when I was drawing that poster. You remember? Yes. The night the Tigers won the 1984 World Series. Yes. Anyhow. So Lily's got this party going on, and it's a nice apartment with a lot of beautiful, dark, rich wood and ornate filigree and things like that. A lovely place. And there's plenty of fresh faces and a bunch of good old-fashioned familiar faces as well. There's a handful of Detroiters there. It's a lovely party. And I'm talking to Suzanne at one point in the party about a play that I'm writing at the time. And I'm explaining to her about how Hector Loomis accidentally shoved accidentally his Pomeranian dog out of a 12th story window. It's a comedy. Anyhow, I'm talking to Suzanne about that, and we're sort of chuckling away about what I'm telling her. And a beautiful young woman comes up and starts listening. I was immediately distracted. All right. This is another true story about how I got mixed up in a sexual situation before I even realized what was happening. I'm at a party, an attractive woman comes up and starts paying attention to me, starts showing interest in me. Well, then, therefore, and naturally, I am showing interest in her. Why? Because she showed interest in me. I've got low self-esteem. Any interest at all is a tremendous aphrodisiac. Plus, she's really pretty. Plus, I'm really pretty easy, as it turns out. So we're at the party, drinking, laughing it up, smoking reefer together, and we're making each other laugh. And I am fully infatuated with this young woman. Her name is Lori Moon, and she's got a trim build and big blue eyes, shortish brown hair, a rich, luscious, voluptuous smile, and a wicked sense of humor. Yes, I like her very much. I wanted to pick her up and carry her around. We're drinking and boozing it up and we're laughing and stuff. And at one point, we're actually holding hands. And Suzanne comes up and she says, "Look at you two. Aren't you cute?" Well, eventually, at one point in the party, Lori Moon and I suddenly decided that we had to duck out of the party, duck onto the subway, and duck over to her East 10th Street apartment. Yes, there was an urgency in the air. Yes, we were pretty keyed up on the subway ride down. Yes, well, we were sitting next to each other, all scrunched up next to each other. Yes, and we weren't making out or anything like that. It wasn't a kissing session, but we were holding each other's hands and stroking and caressing each other's hands. The electricity was fantastic. At one point, we're just staring at each other, grinning like crazy people. Yes. What a lovely smile she had. Oh, it was so rich and luscious. I couldn't wait to get her on top of me. Well, I could tell you about all of our fantastic sexual escapades that we had when we got to her place. I could tell you about all the slick fun we had, how she was a sexual titan and a sensual champion and a sorceress in the boudoir. She gave 102%. Yes, 102%, at least. And she was very open and caring and loving a lover. And she was very open and she was fantastic about open and honest communication during physical intimacy. Lori Moon would always ask politely for exactly what she wanted to happen. Oh, it was amazing and so refreshing and rather rare and oh, so alluring. Yes. Well, then I'd have to tell you about some foible she'd had, or some reason or series of reasons that she explained to me later on why we couldn't continue seeing each other anymore. I was having all these unfulfilling New York sexual encounters. It was a slice of my addictive personality. Wait a minute, what? Anyhow, as I was saying, I was having all of these unfulfilling sexual encounters. It was it was like my it was like a slice of my addictive personality riding around on my sexual addiction itself, like it was a parade horse. Now, the universe had been very generous with me, taking these amazing, beautiful women and flinging them right into my lap. Uh, these these amazing women who came out of nowhere, and I got mixed up with them, with women who had the exact same proclivity for sharing their bodies as I did. We took the exact same amount of advantage of each other as each other did. Yes, it was risky. Most of the time, the sex that we had was unprotected in the various New York sweethearts that I had. We used the age old concept of withdrawal for our contraception. Yes, we thought we were invincible. Yes, I was surprised and astonished anytime any woman showed any interest in me. Yes, I was still sad and depressed anyway. Yes, I still was somewhat relentless in my endless pursuit of love, my endless quest for love. Yes, I had an astonishing amount of fun, but yes, I was still completely unfulfilled. Look, I'm not ashamed or anything like that. I'm just saying that even though I was having all of this apparent fun, even though I was having all this amazing sex, I still felt miserable. All this sex, how can I use it to make myself a better person? I saw Lori Moon later on. Didn't see her for a long time. I saw her sometime later, and there was a party, and we were both at the same party. And we wound up going home together that night, too. It was amazing. It was fantastic. It was like bonus night. It was like hooking up with an old friend. Well, because that's exactly what it was, hooking up with an old sweetheart. Meanwhile, back at my relationship with Morella, she's still an answering machine. Anyhow, so now I'm back in the swing of auditioning. I still don't have my union card, though, do I? I'm not in the Actors Union. I'm not in AEA, Actors Equity Association. So that means that all the auditions that I'm going to have are only non union. And many of these non union auditions are for gigs that don't even pay. Right. It was a lot of work, but there's nothing that you can do when you don't have a job. The most important thing you can do is look for a job. And in New York, in this capital of unemployed actors, what do you do? But audition, audition, audition. And I'll tell you about the auditions that I had coming up next time. I want to thank you for coming along this journey with me, and I look forward to seeing you again.